So this brings us on to Spider-Man, but not Peter Parker. Miles Morales, the
you
other
didn't
one.
specify.
Debated.
I was going to be surprised if it was Peter Parker, I'll be honest.
Did I not?
In the running order to me...
draft, in the original one I sent you, it said Miles.
Oh, I'm looking at the newest one you sent me.
Yeah. I changed that to Spider-Man so that I could fit in my joke.
Ah, I see.
Anyway, well, here's the thing. I'll explain my rationale because it was more than just a joke.
Yeah, I think I know.
When you are dealing with a legacy character like Miles is, it feels really reductive to that character and how good they are to just refer to them as Miles, because that by default means you don't think of them as Spider-Man.
Yeah, I get you.
So I thought it was only fair to acknowledge that he is Spider-Man. He's one of two.
Yeah.
Anyway, Miles made his initial debut in Ultimate Fallout number 4. Now, Miles is originally from Earth 1610.
Yep.
Which is the Ultimate universe, which was a very successful and infamous comic run, which included such stories as Wanda and Quicksilver's incestuous relationship, and shits and giggles like that. It was really good at the start, and then they just got more and more outrageous until they decided to just blow the universe up, quite literally.
Well, that's the quickest way out for them.
There is an original Earth 616 Miles, but that is a very different story for a different day.
Oh.
So Miles's powers are obviously very similar to Peter's. And his origin is pretty similar as well. It is slightly different because obviously the Peter's is that we know is Earth 616.
Yep.
But there was a Peter in Earth 1610 as well, who was also Spider-Man. And he got bitten by an Oscorp spider that had been genetically enhanced. And as part of that project, obviously they're making more than one spider because they were testing different things. So when Miles' uncle broke into Osborn Industries, a spider from that project that was similar to the one that bit Peter crawled into Miles' uncle's bag.
Right.
Miles' uncle obviously being Aaron Davies, who is also known as the Prowler. But we can get into that another day as well. And basically, Miles got accepted into a very prestigious school, but needed money to be able to go. His uncle, being a criminal, had a strange relationship with Miles' parents, but him and Miles always got on really well. So Miles was just kind of excited and wanted to talk to him about it.
Yeah.
While he was visiting him, the spider crawled out of Uncle's back and bit Miles.
Classic.
So the spider crawled out of Miles' uncle's bag. Now this is where it gets quite interesting. Miles and his friend Ganke.
What a name.
Ganke Lee. It's really interesting. Ned Leeds in the MCU is named after another Spider-Man character, but actually behaves more like Ganke, which is just a fun fact for you.
Interesting.
So Ned Leeds is the original Hobgoblin, but is very, very different in the comics. Whereas Ned Leeds in the MCU is actually more like Ganke, which is, I don't know, I find that quite funny.
I mean, it's just MCU.
So, as pretty standard, you got to remember Miles had grown up in a world with superheroes, so getting superpowers doesn't seem ridiculous.
No.
But basically, him and Ganke worked out that after some like superhero montage stuff, worked out that Miles had similar powers to Spider-Man. There are some fun little extra powers we'll get into in a little bit. But basically, he was Spider-Man. He had Spider-Man powers. But Miles was apprehensive because he just wanted to have a normal life, be a normal kid, go to school, meet a pretty girl, get a job, get married, die.
Don't we all?
Exactly. He was like, I don't want to be special. I've seen what being special is like in this world. I'd much rather be normal. And because Spider-Man was there, he kind of just left Spider-Man to be Spider-Man.
Yeah, fair enough then.
But then a couple of months after that, Norman Osborn, as well as a lot of the other great villains that Spider-Man had faced, kind of broke out of prison and knew Peter's identity. So went to try and kill people he cared about.
Oh.
And during that, he got beaten on a lot. Lots of things went wrong, and Peter died.
Oh shit.
Some of you might remember because it was actually really big news when it happened in newspapers. A lot of newspapers did print, "Oh my God, Marvel have killed off Spider-Man."
I feel like I remember this.
Yeah, but they never obviously this was before the MCU. This was oh no, I guess it wasn't before the MCU. It would have been early days of the MCU still. They were kind of like, "Oh my God, they've actually killed off Spider-Man after what at the time would have been like 50 years." And now it looks like there's going to be this little black boy replacing him. What's the world come to?
Classic media back then.
Yeah. I'd love to say it's back then, but it's probably still the same way today.
True in some places.
Miles, seeing a hero he looked up to and was obviously not too dissimilar to him, die in such a way, Miles felt bad for not helping.
Right, yeah, got you.
And as a result of that, he decided he would carry on Peter's legacy, because he now kind of understood that with his great powers, a great responsibility was also imbued upon him.
Classic. Well done.
Of course. You're Spider-Man, it's the rules.
Some wording of that has to be in there.
Yeah. So this was that's his origin. He then met Jessica Drew, who is Spider-Woman, because she was kind of like, who's this dickhead running around with spider powers pretending to be Peter? And then after meeting Miles and taking him to S.H.I.E.L.D., she was like, okay, he's okay. I trust him to carry on Peter's legacy. Sweet. So after the events of Secret War in 2015, which was an incursion, Miles and his entire family, some of whom had died in the Ultimate Universe, all were transported to Earth 616. So Miles, his mother, father, Ganke, and a couple of others are now part of the mainline continuity as a result of Secret War.
Just kept the people they want to keep.
Exactly. They realised that the Ultimate Universe had gone off the rails. So they went, okay, we did do some good stuff here. Let's keep that and bin the other stuff. It was handled as well as it could be.
Yeah, that's comic books.
But also, Miles was a very big part of Civil War II in 2016, which is definitely a story for a different time. There's a lot going on there. But bearing in mind he'd not been in the main continuity that long, and he wasn't the only Spider-Man anymore, because Earth 616 Spider Peter was still alive.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting how big a part of that he was. But yeah, just to wrap us all up here, he has the same basic powers as Peter, but the spider that he was bit by also gave him 2 additional abilities. One known as his Venom Blast, which is bioelectricity, which he kind of produces and then can use to stun enemies and shock them.
Sounds sus.
As well as, and on top of that, he also has a spider camouflage, is how it's described. It's basically invisibility, unless you're staring right at him and looking for something.
Got you.
So when you've got someone who's super athletic and can stick to walls, he can use his camouflage enough to the point where people aren't going to see him.
Yeah, he can blend with his surroundings.
Exactly. It's one thing if you see someone climbing on your roof. It's another thing if you see a weird little shimmery thing climbing on your roof.
Yeah.
Think Predator.
Yeah.
There is a shimmer there, but you have to really be looking for it. So yeah, if you didn't know about one of the Spider-Man, Mr. Miles Morales. Now you do. He's personally one of my favorite characters, and as I read more of his stuff, I like him even more. It's an absolute certainty in my mind we're not far off getting him in the MCU.
I was going to say,
and I am
soon to be in the MCU, right?
Very, very excited. One thing I should add on to this is that Miles Morales was actually inspired partially by Danny Glover.
Yes.
Who played his uncle in Homecoming.
Yes.
So those of you remember, Donald Glover had a cameo in Homecoming where he played a guy trying to buy some of the weapons from the Vulture's crew. In a deleted scene, you see Aaron still with the web on his hands, sat on the floor on the phone going, "Hey Miles, sorry I'm not going to make it, buddy. I got caught up in some stuff." So we know Miles exists in the MCU.
Yeah, we do.
And it's really funny. The reason that Donald Glover is the inspiration is because around the time they were casting Amazing Spider-Man.
Yes.
And Donald Glover in the Community was wearing Spider-Man pajamas. And someone on Twitter, because it's always fucking Twitter, went, you know what? Danny would be like a really good Peter Parker Spider-Man, I think. And he kind of ran with that, being the funny guy that he is. And then before you knew it, on Twitter was trending
Black Spider-Man.
Yeah, Donald Glover for Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, and then didn't they see the reception that got, and then that led to them making the comic?
So it wasn't so much that. Michael Bendis, that one of the creators, saw it, and he was like, why don't we have a Black Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And then there was a couple of other big parts of the inspiration as well. I can't remember what they are. And then from that, he kind of molded what Miles would become. But yeah, like I said, he's a brilliant character. He has some really interesting stories. If you're looking to get into Spider-Man, but you feel like Pete is a bit played out for you, or if Pete is just a bit too OG for you and you want someone a bit newer and fresher,
bit too boomer for you.
Yeah. Check him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look forward to when he gets added to the MCU. Properly.
I'm so excited. I'm gonna be like that first episode we do after Miles' arrival. I'm gonna be unbearable.
What do you mean after that?
That's outrageous.
Set me up for that one.
Drama alert. Wii U. Just trying to throw away everything we've worked really hard for a little punchline. What a sad little life, Jane.
Well, for all the punchlines you've done over the 32 episodes, and I'm still
okay. But you being old is fair game.
Referee.
Referee. Anyway, stop wasting time, Hori. God damn it.